Noah hit the ground hard and didn't get back up. It happened during the last leg of the obstacle course at Uncle Barry's annual corporate bonding wilderness retreat. He was sprinting across the suspended log. Fast, too fast, when his foot slipped and he dropped straight into the muddy ravine below. I heard a crunch, then silence, then Noah yelling out, "I think something's wrong." I was halfway across the course when it happened. I jumped down and ran to the edge of the ravine, hands shaking. "Noah, you good?" He was lying twisted in the mud, barely able to lift his head. His right side was curled in and his shirt was soaked from the fall. Near the fire pit, Uncle Barry didn't even look over. He was too busy playing host, laughing it up with the new VP and a couple of finance guys from Chicago. The camp staff had set up s'mores and bourbon. Barry had a cigar in one hand and a branded stainless steel mug in the other. I shouted again. "He's not moving." Barry waved me off without turning around. "That kid's been milking injuries all weekend," he said. "He's just trying to skip the last challenge." I blinked, stunned. "He's not faking." Barry kept laughing with the VP, didn't miss a beat. Quick note. Before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. I ran to the edge of the ravine and spotted the rope line they'd set up for rappelling. But we'd never been taught how to use it. Not once. That part was always staff only. My heart was racing. I turned and shouted toward the campfire. "Someone needs to get down there." One of the leaders, a woman named Trish, stepped forward. She grabbed a harness from the supply crate and started moving toward the rope. I felt this little pulse of hope. Finally, someone taking it seriously. Then Barry's voice cut through everything. "Trish, stop." She froze. "Don't ruin this moment," he said. "I've almost locked in the account." I looked back toward Noah. He was twitching tiny, jerky movements like he couldn't get control of his body. His mouth opened, but no words came out. He was face down in the mud, barely able to lift his head. That wasn't faking. Not even close. I bolted toward the rope line anyway, grabbing the harness and fumbling with the clips. I had no idea what I was doing. My fingers were all over the place. Behind me, Trish hovered, clearly torn, but didn't move. Barry lit another cigar. I heard him say, "Relax, kid'll be fine." But Noah was still in the mud, still not moving, and nobody else was coming. I yelled his name again, but Noah didn't answer. He was still down there in the mud, curled up with one arm clutching his side. I could hear his breathing shallow, raspy, like every breath was a fight. His lip was split, and there was blood pooling under his chin. I turned toward the fire pit. "He needs help right now." Aunt Rena stood up fast, her camp chair tipping sideways. She rushed a few steps toward the ravine, but Barry caught her by the shoulder and held her back like it was nothing. "Don't be dramatic," he said, his voice low but tight. "You know how he is." Rena shoved his hand off. "Barry, I think something's wrong." He cut her off louder this time. "I am one client away from doubling our quarter. Please sit down." His tone hit like a slap. Rena froze. The clients stared at their drinks. On the other side of the fire, Leah had started moving too. She sprinted toward the trailhead near the ravine, her braid flying behind her. She was on her school's rescue training team. She knew what to do. But one of the retreat guides stepped right into her path. "Back it up," he barked. Leah skidded to a stop, her face turning red. "He's in medical distress. That's not fake." "No interference," the guy said. "This is a controlled exercise." Behind her, Leah's mom rushed over and grabbed her by the wrist. She leaned in and whispered loud enough for me to hear, "Don't. He owns the building your dad's gym rents." Leah's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't move. Her mom pulled her back toward their cabin. I turned and ran toward the ravine again, this time determined to just go down there myself, rope or no rope. But I didn't make it. A woman from the camp, I didn't know her name, grabbed me hard by the arm and yanked me back. "Stop right there," she said. "You do not have permission to enter that zone." "He's dying," I shouted. "Are you serious?" "Let the staff handle it," she said. "This is all part of the simulation." Do not interfere. I ripped my arm out of her grip and looked back at Noah. His eyes were half open now, barely. His whole body was shaking like he was freezing, even though it was warm out. I saw his fingers dig into his side again. Not gentle, not theatrical. Desperate. That wasn't acting. A few other kids had started creeping toward the ravine. Hugo and Danny were whispering. I heard someone say, "That looked real." Another kid muttered, "Should we call someone?" A second retreat guide walked over and crossed his arms. "Stay where you are. Everyone stays here. You move, you leave the retreat." "Got it." Hugo started to argue, but the guy leaned in and said something only he could hear. Whatever it was made Hugo take a step back. Noah made a noise, a low groan, like he was trying to speak but couldn't. I looked at Barry. He was still sitting by the fire, fake smiling and nodding while one of the finance guys talked. The VP had a cigar now too. They were laughing. Uncle Barry glanced over at the ravine like it was just background noise, then looked away. That's when I saw Aunt Rena again. She hadn't sat down. She was watching Noah, hands clenched at her sides, eyes wide like she knew. Deep down, this wasn't something you come back from. She took a step forward again. Just one. Barry turned his head slightly and said, "Rena." She flinched. "I mean it." She looked at me, then back at Noah, then down at the ground. She didn't move. I shouted again, "Someone help him." Noah's head lolled sideways. His mouth moved like he was trying to say something, but no sound came out. The mud around his body was darker now. I couldn't tell if it was from the dirt or from him. Still, nobody moved. Not one damn adult. I didn't wait another second. I turned and bolted toward the edge of the clearing, past the cabins, past the snack table where someone had just opened a fresh box of donuts like it was any normal Sunday. Nobody followed me. Nobody said a word. I cut through the trees and sprinted straight for the back fence, the old chain link one behind the gear shed. I didn't stop to think. I just climbed, gripping the metal like it owed me something. The barbed wire at the top tore through my hoodie and scraped my arm, but I didn't care. I threw my leg over, dropped hard on the other side, and kept running. Behind me, someone finally shouted, "Hey, get back here." Too late. I was already crashing through the trees on the far side of camp, feet sliding on loose pine needles, branches smacking my face. I didn't slow down. I knew the road wasn't far. We'd passed it on the bus ride in, just past the ridge. When I broke through the tree line, my legs were burning and my lungs were shot. But I saw the highway, 2 lanes, empty, and then headlights. I stumbled into the road and waved both arms like a maniac. The car slowed down fast. I ran up to the driver's side window before it even fully stopped. It rolled down. A guy in his 30s leaned out. "You okay?" "I need help," I panted. "My friend's hurt really bad. They're not calling an ambulance." He blinked. "What kind of injury?" "He fell. Ravine. He's not moving, there's blood. He's not responsive." The guy turned serious. "I'm Paul. I'm an EMT off duty, but I've got my bag." He leaned back and shouted to someone inside the car. "Dad, kid down at that camp." "I'm going." He popped the trunk and grabbed a duffel. I jumped into the passenger seat without asking. Paul peeled off the shoulder and turned around, tires screaming a little as he headed back. "What kind of camp is this?" "Corporate thing," I said. "My uncle runs it." Everyone just stood there watching. They told us not to interfere. Paul muttered something under his breath and stepped harder on the gas. When we pulled up near the main clearing, people started to notice. Barry was still by the fire, mid-convo with some guy in a blazer. He turned and his face twisted the second he saw us. "This is private property," he shouted. "You can't just bring strangers in here." Paul ignored him. He was already running toward the ravine. I followed, breathless again. Barry shouted louder. "That's a liability. You need to leave." Paul didn't even blink. "Where's the victim?" I pointed. "Down there." Paul dropped to one knee, strapped himself into the rope line and started lowering himself fast, way faster than we were ever shown. When he reached Noah, he didn't hesitate. He knelt in the mud, checked his pulse, tilted his head, and looked straight up at me. "He's hypovolemic," he called out. "Massive blood loss. We need an ambulance now." That word, hypovolemic, it scared the hell out of me. Paul started pulling Noah's body carefully out of the mud, laying him flat on a dry patch. I could see Noah's skin now, pale, almost gray. His lips were blue. A few people had finally started moving. Someone near the kitchen yelled, "Should we call someone?" Paul didn't look up. "Call 911. Tell them it's a teenage male with suspected internal bleeding. Unresponsive for over 3 minutes. High priority. Get them now." That lit a fire under someone. I heard a phone dial. Finally, Barry was pacing near the fire pit, yelling into his own phone. "I need the retreat team to secure the perimeter. We've got unauthorized access." I didn't even look at him. I was watching Noah. Paul was doing everything right. He worked fast, cleaned the blood from Noah's mouth, covered him with a thermal blanket, checked his vitals again. Noah didn't move. At the hospital, the doctor's face was pale when he walked in. "His spleen's ruptured," he said, his voice flat. "We've stopped the bleeding for now, but there's severe internal damage. We need to monitor him closely. It's a touch-and-go situation." I barely understood the words. I heard ruptured and severe, and all I could think was that I wasn't supposed to be in this waiting room. I wasn't supposed to be here when my best friend was dying. The surgery took hours. When they finally let us see him, Noah was barely recognizable. He was hooked up to machines, tubes in his nose, his face pale and swollen. His body was still too still. There was no life in the room, just the constant beep of monitors. A nurse came in to check on him. "He's stable for now," she said, but her tone was cautious, like she didn't want to get anyone's hopes up. "We've prepared you for the long road ahead," she added. A week passed. Noah didn't wake up. Then, suddenly, his condition took a turn for the worse. His body couldn't keep up. The infection spread like wildfire, shutting down his organs one by one. His heart stopped for 3 minutes. The doctors worked furiously to revive him, but his body was already too far gone. The next morning, Noah slipped into a coma. The doctors told us it was just a matter of time. We sat there, helpless, watching him fight for every breath. 12 days after the retreat, Noah was gone. The coroner said the infection had overwhelmed his weakened system. All the things they didn't catch in time, all the things we begged for someone to see, had finally taken him. Uncle Barry didn't show up at the hospital. The next day, he was on the phone with his lawyers, arranging for damage control. The first thing I heard when I got home was that he had been fired. The new VP, some guy named Steven, had made it clear, "I won't work with a man who lets a teenager die for image control." But even as Barry lost his job, he wasn't done trying to cover his tracks. His lawyers convinced the police it was a tragic misunderstanding. Barry told them he thought Noah was faking it, part of the simulation, that he didn't realize the kid was in serious danger. He blamed everything on the chaos of the retreat, on miscommunication. And the adults who had stopped us? They all repeated the same line. "We were just following protocol." The more I heard it, the more it made me sick. Protocol? Protocol didn't make people stand around watching while a kid was dying. Protocol didn't make someone grab my arm and drag me back when I was trying to save my best friend. I wanted to scream at them all, but instead, I sat there, numb, wondering if Noah had suffered longer because of the people who couldn't bother to care. And somewhere, deep down, I knew this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. That night, the group chat went insane. Leah kicked it off with a thread titled "What Actually Happened," and it didn't take long before everyone started dumping details. Every one of us had something to say, even if it was just a moment or a sentence. Everyone was so goddamn angry, but none of us could even process it yet. We were still running on adrenaline, still half in shock. Hugo's first message was short: "GoPro footage. I've got it all," but a camp official grabbed it right off me. He didn't even apologize. That was the first I'd heard of it. He'd been filming the whole time? The whole damn thing? He sent another message a minute later, a link to a cloud storage folder. It auto-uploaded. Videos backed up. We all clicked. The footage was clear. Noah falling, people ignoring him, and Barry sitting at the fire. It was all there in perfect detail. You could see Barry's face, how he barely even looked in Noah's direction. You could see me shouting, then running off. I couldn't watch it for long. My chest tightened, and I had to look away. But I knew we'd need it. We all did. Then Sarah chimed in, her fingers typing fast. I heard my dad say something when Noah was still on the ground. He said, "Let the little faker sweat. Barry needs this win." Cold knot twisted in my stomach. Her dad was one of the guys who'd blocked us. I remembered how he'd shoved Leah aside, how he had the smug look when he was talking to Barry. Now it all made sense. They weren't just ignoring us, they were actively covering for Barry. We all sat there, quiet for a while. Then Leah messaged again. "They won't admit it. I know they won't. We have to document everything ourselves. Every name, every moment. It's the only way to get this out there." I could almost hear the determination in her words. Leah didn't waste time. She was already uploading screenshots of the medical reports. She started organizing them in folders, school drives, email backups, everything she could think of to make sure we had proof if we needed it. "I'm making a timeline," Hugo added. "Timestamps, dates, everything." For hours, we traded information like it was the only thing keeping us from going under. I started listing every adult who had blocked us, writing down details, filling in gaps. There was a list of names, positions, times, and every word they'd said. It wasn't enough yet, but it was a start. We didn't stop until late. At some point, my eyes burned from staring at the screen. I hadn't realized how much I was holding in until I had something real to focus on. A plan, something concrete. We were doing this no matter what it took. We weren't going to let them just brush it under the rug. But it wasn't just about the adults. It was about Noah, about making sure what happened to him mattered, that he wasn't just another statistic in some corporate mishap. I didn't even question it. Leah was right. We had to keep going. No one else would. And we wouldn't stop until everyone knew. The family meeting was held in Uncle Barry's living room, and it felt like a showdown. Barry's lawyer, a stiff guy in a tailored suit, opened with a warning. Any stories suggesting negligence or misconduct could result in costly lawsuits. Your son's future is at stake. He looked at me when he said it, and I could feel the weight of his words. I didn't say anything. The lawyer wasn't talking to me anyway, he was talking to my mom. She was sitting on the couch, wringing her hands, the same way she always did when Barry raised his voice. I could see the worry in her eyes, but there was something else too. Fear. She was scared not just for Noah but for us. For our family. "You don't understand, Mom," I said, trying to stay calm. "Noah is dead. He's dead. This isn't about money or a lawsuit. This is about what happened, and we can't just pretend it didn't." My mom's voice cracked. "We can't afford a fight like this, Jake. We're already in too deep. You don't get it, do you?" I snapped, standing up. "You think it'll go away if we just stay quiet? They'll do whatever they can to cover it up, and Noah's gone. And nothing will change." Barry's lawyer cleared his throat, but I didn't care. "We need to move on," he said, like a broken record. "Don't make this public." I was done with that meeting. I could feel the walls closing in, and all I wanted to do was scream at all of them. Instead, I turned and walked out of the room, slamming the door behind me. The threats started soon after. At school, the first note showed up in my locker. It was short, scribbled in red ink. Enough. I didn't even have to ask who it was from. The school didn't do anything, no one ever does. But I knew who was behind it. Barry's people, the ones he'd been pressuring since the retreat, trying to sweep everything under the rug. Sarah showed me her bruises the next day. They were dark purple, ugly, running from her forearm up to her shoulder where her dad had yanked her back during the chaos at the ravine. Her eyes were tired, like she hadn't slept in days, and when she spoke, her voice cracked. "I should have done more, Jake. I should have pushed harder, but I didn't." I shook my head. "You did everything you could. You tried. It was them." I pointed at the hallway, as if I could pinpoint every adult who stood there while Noah was dying. "Not us." Leah started getting phone calls, just one word, then the click of a hanging up line. "Enough. It wasn't just us. They were sending messages trying to make us shut up, to make us go away. But we couldn't. Not when we knew the truth. Then came the message from Paul, the EMT who had saved Noah. "I'm willing to testify," he said. It was brief but enough. I saved it in my phone, knowing that it would matter. But Barry wasn't done. He was pulling strings behind the scenes, pressuring people who didn't deserve it. I heard from one of the guides, a guy named Doug, who said Barry was trying to force his dad's business partner to fire him if he didn't fall in line. It wasn't just about Noah anymore. It was about saving face, saving his reputation, keeping his network intact. Leah was the one who finally said, "We have to go public." She didn't wait for us to agree. Her cousin, Sam, worked for a local news outlet, and she knew exactly what needed to happen. That night, we sent them one clear photo, the one of Barry standing by the fire, arms crossed, while Noah was stuck in the mud. We didn't say anything. We didn't need to. The photo spoke for itself. The next morning, Leah's mom found out. She was furious, not because of what we'd done, but because of what it meant. She smashed her phone, slamming it down on the kitchen counter. "What are you doing?" she yelled at Leah. Leah didn't flinch. "I'm doing what's right, Mom. What they won't do." Her mom started to cry, but Leah stood firm. She was always the strong one, the one who wouldn't back down. "I uploaded everything to a hidden cloud folder," Leah said quietly. "Everything. Medical reports, timelines, photos, texts, the GoPro footage." I stared at her, and for the first time in days, I felt a spark of something, hope. Maybe we could actually do something about this. Maybe it wouldn't just fade away. The truth was out there now, and we weren't going to stop until everyone knew it. A week after we leaked the photo, the article went live. It wasn't enough to say everything, but it was enough to spark fire. The headline read, "Teen's death linked to delayed medical response at wilderness retreat." It didn't name any minors, but the details it included hit hard. The fact that medical response had been delayed by over 3 minutes, and that multiple witnesses confirmed adults actively prevented any rescue efforts. The internet exploded. Comments flooded in. The article spread like wildfire, being shared across social media, picked up by every major local news outlet. People started asking questions, wondering how something so obvious had been ignored. How could anyone let a kid die for the sake of a corporate retreat? Barry tried to control the damage immediately. He called the newspaper, left threatening voicemails, even contacted the editor directly. "You have no idea what you're messing with," he said in one message, all smooth and condescending. "You want a lawsuit? Keep pushing this. You'll regret it." That backfired. Big time. The paper responded by publishing his threats, alongside quotes from the article. They didn't just keep the story up, they doubled down. Barry's arrogance made the whole thing worse. Then came the podcast. A local true crime podcast called Mud and Lies. The Noah Hayes story dropped like a bomb. They had everything. The GoPro footage, the timeline we built, an audio of Uncle Barry saying, "Don't ruin this for me." The episode went viral. People who hadn't even heard of the retreat started demanding answers. I could feel the shift in the air. It wasn't just our voices now. It was everyone. The people who'd been silent before, the ones who'd been afraid or indifferent, were starting to speak up. Then the protests started. People showed up outside Barry's old office. They carried signs with Noah's face on them, with slogans like #Justice for Noah and #Barry killed him. Someone had even spray painted "Let him die, right Barry?" across the lobby wall. I'd never seen anything like it. People finally standing up, even when Barry's influence had always kept them quiet. I was still reeling from the fact that people were actually demanding justice. But then it all got real. Leah's mom showed up at our house one night, hysterical. She pounded on the door, face red from crying. "Leah, please stop. Please, I'm begging you," she shouted through the door. "This is too much. We're going to lose everything. This is ruining everything." Leah opened the door, and her mom broke down, right there on the porch. She clung to Leah, begging her to back off, to let it go before it destroyed them. Leah stood still, her jaw tight, but I could see the pain in her eyes. She wasn't backing down. She couldn't. I watched from the stairs, my stomach twisting. Part of me felt for Leah's mom. She didn't deserve this. But I couldn't stop the anger that flooded my chest. My mom stood behind me, her arms crossed. "No, you stop." Leah's mom turned to her, eyes wide. "You don't understand. You don't know what this is doing to our family." My mom's voice didn't waver. "He killed my son's best friend. And now he's trying to cover it up. You stop, and you let him get away with it." It was the first time I'd seen my mom like this, completely unshakable. There was no fear in her anymore, just anger. A quiet, fierce kind of anger that could burn everything down if it had to. Leah's mom didn't argue. She just wiped her face and left, but I could see the toll it had taken on her. She wasn't just fighting Barry anymore. She was fighting her daughter's truth. We had to keep going. We couldn't stop now, not when the whole world was finally listening. The prosecutor from the state capitol took the case. Her name was Ms. Brooks, and she was relentless. She came to our school interviewing each of us one by one. I wasn't surprised when she asked me to testify, but I was terrified. I kept hearing Barry's voice in my head, warning me about ruining everything, about not going public. But this was bigger than him, bigger than any of us. Ms. Brooks was efficient, professional, but I could see the weight in her eyes. She didn't just see a case. She saw kids who were trying to get justice for a friend who never had a chance. The whole time, Ms. Brooks was also helping us process everything. She held trauma sessions after school, making sure we weren't losing ourselves in the mess. I don't think any of us fully understood how much it had messed with us until she started talking about it. Noah was everywhere, in the hallways, in our conversations, in every moment of silence. But the one thing she did that made all of us feel like we weren't alone was report Uncle Barry for endangering minors. She told the authorities about the threats, the blocked rescues, and everything else that had gone down at the retreat. That was the turning point for a lot of adults. Trish was one of the first to flip. She came forward with a recording, Barry telling her, "Block the kids if they move." Just hearing those words in his voice, cold and casual, made everything worse. Barry wasn't just guilty of doing nothing. He was guilty of actively trying to stop us from helping. The charges came fast after that: criminal negligence, obstruction, and involuntary manslaughter. They filed all of them. Then came Aunt Rena's bombshell. She filed for divorce. She handed over text messages showing Barry gloating about how well the retreat had gone. "The new VP is a lock," he wrote in one, completely oblivious to what had really happened. My stomach turned reading it. This wasn't just a man too busy to care. This was a man who thought it was all a game. Sarah testified in a closed hearing. She was the strongest person I knew, but she broke down halfway through. When she described how her dad had physically stopped her from helping Noah, her voice cracked. I knew it wasn't a joke, but he made me stand there. Made me. I don't think anyone in that room could look at her the same after that. She had been forced to choose between saving her friend and keeping her family intact. The court admitted all the evidence. They played the GoPro footage, the audio of Barry's voice, and the timeline we had built. I heard Barry's words again, that "don't ruin this for me." The look on his face when he said it, like we were just inconveniences to be dealt with, still made my blood boil. The judge didn't flinch. He refused to dismiss any charges. He listened to everything we said and let the evidence speak for itself. No one could deny the truth anymore. Uncle Barry tried to spin the whole thing as an accident, a series of unfortunate events, but it didn't matter. It was too late. He couldn't control it anymore. He couldn't lie his way out of what had happened. He was guilty, and it felt like the weight of everything we'd fought for was finally paying off. The trial lasted 6 days. 6 days of sitting in that cold courtroom, listening to Barry's lawyers try to twist the truth into something unrecognizable. But we all knew what had happened. The video of Barry blocking Trish from helping Noah, that was the moment the jury gasped. You could see it in their eyes, that collective shock, like the truth had finally hit them full force. They watched him, arms crossed, telling Trish to stand down. The same man who claimed he didn't know Noah was in serious trouble. The same one who'd refused to act when it mattered most. It was hard to sit through, But I did it. I had to. When it was my turn to testify, I thought my voice would crack. But I didn't let it. I told them everything I saw. How Barry had told everyone Noah was faking. How adults had blocked the path, not even trying to help. I described how Noah's eyes had barely been open, how he'd clutched his side in pain, how I'd screamed at them to do something, but no one moved. The EMT, Paul, explained how 30 seconds could have made the difference. Just 30 seconds. He said it like it was the simplest thing in the world, but everyone in that courtroom could feel the weight of those words. That 30 seconds could have saved Noah's life. Barry's defense was as predictable as it was insulting. He tried to claim he thought it was all part of the simulation, that Noah was just pretending for the last challenge. But the emails? The ones from weeks earlier that warned him about safety issues? Those emails didn't lie. They showed Barry had been warned. He knew something was wrong, and he still ignored it. Then came the worst part. His own daughter testified. She didn't speak much, but the words she did say hit harder than anything. She talked about how her dad once told her, "One screw up and I lose the clients. That kid better behave." She said it quietly, like it was a casual remark, but everyone in that room understood. That wasn't just about Noah. That was about a whole system that valued profits over people's lives. The jury didn't take long to deliberate. Barry was found guilty on all major counts: criminal negligence, obstruction, and involuntary manslaughter. My chest tightened when the verdict was read aloud, but it was a relief too. He couldn't hide anymore. 10 other adults who had blocked us, camp leaders, guides, retreat staff, got probation or community service. Some of them tried to act like it was no big deal, but I knew the truth. They'd covered for Barry, and now they were paying the price. After sentencing, Ms. Brooks didn't stop. She launched a school-wide policy change: mandatory training on youth emergencies and the duty to act. The school wasn't going to sit back and let it happen again. They weren't going to pretend it was just a retreat incident. From now on, kids would learn what we weren't allowed to do. They'd learn what it meant to speak up. But for me, that wasn't enough. I wasn't sure anything would be enough. Not after everything we'd lost. Noah was gone. And no verdict, no policy change could bring him back. But at least now, people had to face the truth. Aunt Rena started the Noah Project the week after the trial. She wanted to make sure that no kid would ever have to go through what Noah did. It was simple at first: free safety training for teens, a hotline where people could report ignored emergencies. But it grew fast. It wasn't just a project anymore. It was a movement, a way to make sure we never forgot. Leah, Sarah, Hugo, and I kept the group chat alive. At first, it was just a way to check in, share news. But soon it became a full-blown network, connecting kids across 5 counties. We shared information, gave each other advice, and talked about the things that scared us. We started hosting online workshops and meetups. We weren't just the ones trying to make things right anymore. We were teaching others how to do the same. One day, I got an email that made me blink twice. I had been invited to speak at a national safety conference. They wanted me to talk about how kids had to do what adults wouldn't, how we had to step up and save each other when nobody else cared. I remember feeling a mix of pride and disbelief, but I went. I shared our story, what we'd learned, and how it wasn't just about Noah anymore. It was about all of us. Barry's old retreat property, it became Camp Noah. They renamed it in his honor, a community camp where safety came first. It was like the place had been reborn. I spent every summer there, volunteering with other kids, watching them learn the things we hadn't been allowed to do: act, speak up, and save each other when it mattered most. Ms. Brooks got promoted to state youth advocate. She helped draft the Noah Act, a new law that made it a crime to obstruct aid in youth emergencies. The law passed. It was one more step toward making sure nothing like what happened to Noah would ever happen again. I still think about him every day. I still see his face when I close my eyes. But now, when I think of Noah, I don't just see the loss. I see the change he helped create. And I know that he didn't die in vain.